Now this video might be a little bit more negative than my usual ones, but that's only because I'm going to be critiquing these maps, saying the things I like and don't like. But just remember, I do like them to an extent, all of them, even the D tier ones, because I play them every single day. So take my opinion as more negative than usual and remember that I really do like them. Anyway, enjoy. I've voiced my opinions on the Battlefield 2042 maps a lot, but I've never gone through them all. I've only really reviewed the new ones and gone over a few others. So today I thought it'd be a really good idea to go through and do an actual tier list of all the maps, including Portal maps, to kind of put where I rank them. And of course, this is my own opinion of my own experience on these maps. I have about 450 hours in the game. You might not think that's enough. You might think that's enough. If you disagree with this, great. Let me know down below if I make any stupid decisions that you don't agree with. But yeah, I think we should get straight into this. Now you might notice there are two kaleidoscopes on here. That's because we've got new kaleidoscope here and old kaleidoscope here. At the time of making this, there is no new orbital out yet and no renewal yet. That's coming later this month. So we're just going to head straight into it. And I think the easiest place to start for me would be with the least favorite of the 2042 maps for me. And that is unfortunately Hourglass. Now I'm going to stick this in D tier. It's a pretty clear one, I think. The lack of cover, the long travel times between objectives. Visually, it does look pretty great. In the day, sometimes looks a bit iffy, but as soon as the storm comes in, the map looks incredible. But the art direction alone isn't enough to keep me interested. The only places I like fighting are kind of in the city on those 3 capture points and the 3 around the stadium. This one just isn't it for me, unfortunately. So we're sticking that in D tier, the lowest of the low. We're starting out easy. We're going to work our way up. I haven't scripted any of this, so this is just my thoughts on each map as we go through. Hourglass, you're the easiest one to pick on. You sit in D tier. I would say the next map that I can pick on has got to be, unfortunately, Breakaway. I wouldn't say it's as bad as Hourglass, and I'm going to have to just put them on the same level because they're pretty near each other. Breakaway's flow just isn't really there for me. The open ice looks great, like in the trailer. It looked great. It looks aesthetically amazing. Art direction, amazing, but it just needs more cover. The only points I find myself having fun at are sometimes F until a tank rolls around because the US spawn is right there, and the A objectives. Aesthetically, great map, but it's not it in terms of gameplay for me, for most of it. Now we're going to get onto one of the first Portal maps, which I'm going to be very harsh to as well for D tier, just because I simply don't enjoy fighting in any of it, pretty much. And that would be, unfortunately, Al Alamein. It isn't that fun. It's too open. For tank combat, yes, it's great. I didn't mind Rush that much, but the Conquest experience is the main one I get on it, and there's just not enough cover to go around, really. On TDM, it's not too bad, but we're going to stick in D tier just because it's not that fun being farmed by tanks for 20 minutes. That's all there is to D tier, those 3 maps. The theme with those is that they're just too open. They're just too open. Now, the first for C tier will be Original Kaleidoscope. Now, I've said this in my Kaleidoscope rework video. I do like the fact that it's got a nice art direction yet again. In its original state, there wasn't much map flow. Sight lines were really, really long, so you get sniped from anywhere. Capture points didn't really feel that important. There were like some gazebos, and the data center, I prefer it not being on the bottom floor for the capture point. I prefer it being mid floor like it is now. It's just the placement wasn't really there for Kaleidoscope. It wasn't really doing it for me when it first came out. Our next map, which is pretty much going to cover the same points for this in C tier, will be Renewal, because it's essentially got exactly the same problems as Kaleidoscope. Its art direction, yet again, I really like the idea of. There isn't really enough cover in between objectives, those open fields that you can kind of see me indicating at here, there, and there. No cover at all between those objectives. The actual main building, pretty good. I enjoy fighting in there, the tight corridors, stuff like that. The underground part of it, big fan of that. C, I do really enjoy fighting out though. This is why I didn't put it in D tier. It gave that meat grindery feeling before Season 1 and 2 started. That was the only place I could really get that, apart from Portal maps, was on Renewal, because that's C objective. Everyone's piling in. Yeah, I'd say that's it's one saving grace for me, is the C objective, which is nice because it sits in the C category. Now, unfortunately, we're going to start off with B tier now. We're getting better, but we're still not really it. There's going to be a lot for B tier, I feel. That's just my prediction now. I might be wrong once we're over with it, but I'm going to go and put Battle of the Bulge in B tier. Now, my main problems with this map, we'll get started with those before getting onto the things I'd like, is there isn't enough cover on the windmill objective. Trying to assault that on both sides is pretty horrendous. Around the US spawn as well. I know it's conquest assaults that can be taken. Assaulting that is pretty dreadful as well because there's no cover. The rest of the map's okay for it, especially the town. I do like fighting in the town. The TDM layout for that, really nice. Do like that. So yeah, I would say Battle of the Bulge will sit in B tier for me. It's an okay map. It's an okay map. Next for B tier, we're going to go for Discarded. Now, this one I have mixed feelings on because some objectives, again, I really like. I like the Flooded Village. Overall, the map lanes between objectives are pretty damn open yet again. This is a theme for the base maps that'll be carried over through all of them, but for this it's kind of accentuated around the main ship. If you're sitting on top of it, you can pick up infantry really easily that are below it. One more thing bringing this map down is the openness of the ship. Now, it's a cool evolution to have the side of the ship be pulled down, but there are also just parts that are more exposed than others in there that really make it hard for infantry to traverse through the insides. This is what the new map Stranded has kind of remedied. The inside of the ship is a safe space for infantry to hide, but in Discarded it just really wasn't. There was no place to go. Driver could get out, open the side of the ship, drive straight through and kill you or blast you because it's so open in those spaces. That's not to say there's no infantry spaces inside, but it's more limited than I would like it to be. And hopefully in the rework we can... Oh, this is getting more and more difficult. Even though I hold it in higher regard than the two maps on this list, I'm going to have to stick Manifest also in B tier. It's got a few points that bring it up and a few points that bring it down, which sits it nicely in the middle. The ship objectives aren't too bad. They can be a bit of a cluster sometimes. I think they can lead to some good CQB firefights. The objective on the top of the hill, B2, B1, I do like fighting there as well, but it's just still that dead space between objectives, especially the ships on the outskirts leading to the E objectives. Absolute open space there. And I've got to consider a few other modes other than Conquest. And for example, Rush, that starting objective is not great. I really don't like the base maps for Rush, to be honest with you. Some of them are okay. Some of them are good. Manifest, unfortunately, but that starting objective is not one of them because you have to parachute to get off the main crane you spawn on, and if you land, there's nowhere to hide, and if you don't land, you're gonna get picked off by snipers pretty quickly on the defending team. I like the idea of Manifest. Its execution is okay. I'm looking forward to what they're going to do with the rework for this one if they do one. But yeah, it's got some good points, it's got some bad points. Sits there right in the middle. Now, I was really hesitant on this one. I'm going to have to stick Nosha Canals in B simply because, and I don't know if this was the case in BF3 because I started at BF4, is that you get spawn trapped really easily. You can get locked. I think it's as the Russians. It's really easy to get trapped by the US side and not get out of those starting objectives. It's so easy to just have a match that'll end in 5 minutes because the US blitz through 4 out of 6, I think, objectives, and you get stuck in D, I think it is, by the Russian spawn on the docks, and you just can't get out. That's it for you. Now, the reason I haven't put this lower down, because that sounds bad, right? Sometimes, though, you can get some really good matches on Nosha Canals, and TDM also is a lot of fun in the container side, so it's not all bad, not all good. Sits it right in the middle in B tier. Okay, now we're getting onto the really interesting stuff. So I'm going to go with some of the easiest to put in A tier. I'm going to whack Kaleidoscope up in A tier because the rework has fixed all the problems I've had with it. No longer really long sight lines, there's terrain blocking it, lots more cover, a much shorter time to reach objectives, which is really good. And overall, it's just the flow of the map is much better. And the addition of B, that command base, is such a cool one, and it actually makes you feel like you're fighting over something important in the map. The main good points that I made about Kaleidoscope 1.0 in C tier have just been carried on to A tier and just improved with the new one. They've gotten rid of the bad things, up with the good. The next easy one for me in A tier is Orbital. This is my favorite map at launch, and even though some people aren't too keen on the open spaces of it, it has a place in my heart because of the beta and the Levolution, if you can call it that, because it changes the E flag completely in my opinion. It's just so cool. The rocket taking off or exploding, and the first time I saw a tornado on this map is really cool. I personally don't think it's too long to get to objectives in this one, although they are adding more objectives and a lot more cover in the rework. I think that'll push it up to S tier for me, but Orbital, easily the best map in the game for the base maps. Next for A tier, I'm going to go with Arica Harbour. Now, I don't know if this will be a controversial one, maybe, but for me, Arica Harbour has some really great areas and some not so great areas. So in Conquest around B, I do find myself getting mowed down by helicopters really often. I would say for the slower paced game modes like Rush, it's an amazing map, which is why it's in A tier, but I think in Conquest my experience is slightly worse, especially for the Tarkov mode that I sometimes run, and I see some other people running it as well. It's really good for that. It feels gritty, obviously because it's by Company 2 map, but it's great. Again, for A tier, I'm going to put Caspian Border. This might also be controversial, but I just don't think the map flows as well as it really should. Some lanes are a bit too open, but to be honest, it's pretty damn solid. There's a lot of cover on each objective. It's got the tower collapsing, which is a really cool effect. And it's just, yeah, it's a pretty solid base map. It definitely deserves its spot in A tier. And now it's pretty obvious we're moving on to S now. So I'm going to instantly put Valparaiso up there because it's the best Portal map. Its design's really good. Its art direction's amazing. On Rush, it's easily my favorite map. It's got nice sniping positions, nice CQB areas, some areas for tanks to move around in and really be in their own. I can't really find any faults with it. Now, easily for S tier is Exposure. Best map in the game, above all the base ones, for me anyway. It's got the meat grindery sections with B, D, and C. It's got some more open ones for tanks on above the canyon and below it at E and A. F is quite fun for infantry and the small... it's not really housing. What is it? I don't know what it is, but it's, yeah, the indoor areas over there are pretty good as well. It reignited my hope for this game fully when Season 1 launched, when I played this map for the first time. Its art direction is amazing. Its setting's really good. It expanded on the lore as well with Steadfast Reckoning. It's got verticality. It's got good cover. It's a perfect mix. Now, finally, we're on to the last map here and the newest map here, and that is Stranded. I played it for a couple days now because the season's been out for a couple of days. Initial thoughts on Stranded when I first played it. I wasn't too keen on Conquest. It felt disjointed. It felt like I was being pulled around everywhere because I didn't exactly know where to go. But now, after a couple of days, now that the map's settled in, I really like it. It wasn't as instant for me to like this map as it was for Exposure, but it's really found its footing. I thought I'd compare it to Discarded, but they're very different maps. They suit very different purposes, and I think this one really benefits from being quite a small map. They've got infantry areas, they've got vehicle areas. It's a perfect balance, really. One thing that really hit me with Stranded was its vibrancy. I got this with Exposure too, but it really pops with the colors. It grabs your attention as a map. It has some interesting capture points, and for that reason, for all of that combined, I'm going to put Stranded in S tier 2. So here are my rankings. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you think I'm a heathen or if I'm awful, and if I have poor taste. Do let me know in the comments below. That is my ranking of all of the current maps in Battlefield 2042. The maps we know of being reworked right now that are confirmed as to literal dates when they're coming or months for dates are Renewal and Orbital. So Orbital may be pushed up to S tier and Renewal could be B or A depending on how it goes. And if you do want to talk to me about these maps or anything else about Battlefield 2042, please visit the link in the description to the No Salt Discord where I'll be hanging out. I'm always there talking to people. There are a lot of people there that watch my videos, and if you guys are listening right now, thank you very much for supporting me. So yeah, go give it a visit, join our community. Come talk to us. We'd love to hear from you. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.